Thanks for joining us. I'm Marni Hughes, and this is Missing on NewsNation. Each week, we cover missing person cases from across the country, no matter their race, religion, background, or circumstances, because we believe every missing person matters. Many of the cases we cover come from you. Our featured case this week is one we have been following for the last year, and we have brand new updates in the search for Tanya Whipp, including a search and an arrest in the investigation. First, though, we have a couple other cases to update you on. It's been 13 years since Lauren Spierer vanished after a night out. She was a sophomore studying fashion at Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana. It was June 3rd, 2011. Spierer was hanging out, drinking with friends before leaving Kilroy's Sports Bar without her phone or her shoes. In a new book called College Girl Missing: The True Story of How a Young Woman Disappeared in Plain Sight, author and investigative journalist Sean Cohen reveals some bombshells about the last people to see Lauren alive and what may have happened that night. Cohen spoke to my colleague Ashley Banfield about the case.
All these years later, to take a fresh look at everything that was gathered by the private investigators and read it all together and contrast the statements, see how certain persons of interest, their statements evolved. You see a bigger picture of that night, and it's important to tell that story. And so I revisited key players, and for the first time, they decided to open up and share what actually happened. They were very closed off in the early days, and eventually I worked my way back to the last people to see her alive, and confronted them.
And Corey Rossman is one of the people Cohen has tried to talk to. He was one of the last people with Lauren that night, and at some point, he was on a phone call as Lauren was intoxicated and slumped over nearby. Cohen wants to know who was on the other end of that line, on that call, and can they help put together another piece of this puzzle? Lauren's family has set up a website hoping for answers in her case, and you can learn more and submit information. It's at findlauren.com. The biological father of Sebastian Rogers is planning more searches for his son. It's been nearly 100 days since the 15-year-old was reported missing from his family's home in Tennessee. An Amber Alert has been issued, and there have been multiple searches. However, there is still no sign of Sebastian. His dad, Seth Rogers, spoke with our NewsNation station in Nashville and says his goal today is the same as it was the day Sebastian was reported missing.
When people stop looking, when people lose faith, it becomes a cold case. And I'm not going to lose faith.
The Sumner County Sheriff's Office continues to investigate Sebastian's disappearance, telling us they are leaving no stone unturned, and they are working closely with other agencies, and that includes the FBI. Now for this week's featured case and several new updates in the search for Tanya Whipp. There has been a dramatic turn of events in this investigation since we first started following the case nearly a year ago. Tanya's boyfriend, Russell Carroll, is now behind bars, police naming him as their only suspect in what they are now calling a homicide case. And there was also a new search of her home in Florida. Here's a closer look at her disappearance.
A Memorial Day weekend vigil for Tanya Whipp.
I think I've ran out of tears. Sometimes I feel that way. I ran out of tears.
This week marks 1 year since Tanya disappeared from this home on Caroline Avenue, where she lived with her boyfriend, Russell Carroll. According to Auburndale police, Russell told them when he came home from work one day in late May of last year, Tanya was gone. But Tanya's paid-off car, her purse, and her precious dog, Baby, were all left behind. Russell never reported Tanya missing and declined going on the community searches for her, telling Tanya's family at the time that she wanted some space. Tanya's family told NewsNation it doesn't add up.
I just don't believe she just walked away. Not from everything. Not her dogs, not her car, not her family. I just don't.
Tanya's relationship with Russell has been complicated. When they met in 2013, he had already spent time behind bars for the stabbing and attempted murder of his 16-year-old ex-girlfriend 10 years earlier. Then in 2015, he went back to prison after being caught with narcotics during a traffic stop. He and Tanya stayed in touch during the years they were apart, and after his release in early 2023, he and Tanya moved in together. Last October, police obtained a search warrant for Russell's home, leaving with his electronic records.
What do you think they'll find on your computers and cell phone?
Nothing. I mean, text messages between me and her, but it's nothing like, oh, this is like, hey, baby, you're coming home from work, what do you want to eat?
But on May 18th, the Auburndale police obtained another search warrant, going back to Russell's home again, with backhoes and equipment for another 4 days of searches. We Are the Essentials investigator Nico Toscani had just turned over evidence that led to Russell's arrest.
One of the things I found was a receipt.
The receipt led investigators to this advanced auto parts. Court documents say Tanya was captured there on surveillance video with Russell on May 26th of last year, the last place she was seen.
It was very emotional. At one point, I was crying. At one point, I was screaming. I was very excited that he was arrested because that's the first step for justice for Tanya.
Russell Carroll.
Police arrested Russell May 14th, charging him with grand theft and unlawful use of personal identification information. The arrest affidavit cited bank records, surveillance video, and other evidence alleging that Russell withdrew more than $7,500 from Tanya's bank account after she went missing between July 2023 through March of 2024. Throughout the year, hundreds of volunteers in the community have joined Tanya's family, searching about a dozen locations near her house and wooded areas nearby. They've gone out on foot and used trucks, ATVs, and drones, all looking for any kind of clue as to where she might be.
They found all kinds of articles of clothing and stuff like that. Unfortunately, none of it matched the clothing that we know Tanya was last wearing.
Now investigators are calling this a homicide, but Tanya's body has never been found. Her family says they will not give up trying to find her.
It's really hard to keep hope, to think that, something bad has happened, to say that our family isn't ripped to pieces over this. We are. It's killing us.
She knows how much we love her and how much this community has come together to help us to find her.
There's a little bit of relief that finally it's out there for the whole public to see that he is the prime suspect in her homicide.
Joining me now, Robin Klotzbier, Tanya's sister, and Nico Toscani. He's the co-founder of We Are the Essentials. To you both, thank you. Robin, I know that this is so difficult for you and your entire family, so thank you for speaking with us again about your sister. This news and receiving word of her boyfriend's arrest, just tell me how you're doing and where you're at right now.
What do you mean, at home?
No, I mean emotionally, how it was to receive that news.
Well, I was happy that he was in jail. I hope he stays there. It's heart-wrenching to know that my sister's out there somewhere. We don't know where she's at.
Nico, you were pivotal in this investigation. Are you anticipating homicide charges based on what you now know about this case?
Yes, I think it's only a matter of time before they officially charge the only suspect with homicide.
Tell me more about the evidence that you uncovered and what led you to go down this road, looking and eventually finding this receipt that was so critical.
Right. So once we had spoken to the suspect, he had changed the story a number of times, and with that, we just felt like something's definitely wrong here. So he still had possession of Tanya's belongings and her vehicle. And we did a search, and inside the vehicle, I found a crushed up receipt on the driver's side center console. And when I opened it up, the date was after he said she had disappeared. So we immediately turned that over to the Auburndale police. In addition, we collected some of Tanya's belongings on the same day, and inside her purse, we found some receipts, money withdrawal receipts from an ATM a month after Tanya had disappeared. So, we got that information and those receipts to the Auburndale police, obviously ASAP.
Are you any closer, Nico, to understanding what happened to Tanya that day? Where does this evidence lead you?
This has been a difficult one. In the beginning, you want to keep an open mind. You want to hope that people would be telling you the truth. So you got to follow all kinds of leads, figure out where your interviews are going, and start the evidence collection process. For us, it's a little bit more difficult because we are not law enforcement. So that makes it a little bit more challenging. The great news is the Auburndale police, and anytime we had a question or wanted to submit something that we thought was important to them, they immediately responded. And since that time, we've had a great working relationship. They're total professionals. There's no egos involved, and I am very hopeful that someday soon this family is going to get the answers they so desperately need.
Robin, right now, with the arrest and the search of the property, what is your greatest hope as your nightmare continues?
That we find Tanya and is able to put her to rest. Give her the peace that she deserves.
When you look back at your sister at the time of her disappearance, Robin, what do you recall going on in her life? And were you concerned, or was she fearful at all of Russell?
That's the one thing. We had a great relationship. I was like a mom. Her after our mom passed. So she would come to me with advice, asking, and I would give it. Sometimes she took it, sometimes she didn't, but she always listened to what I had to say. She seemed happy that Russell was getting out. I did not know his past, or I would have said to her, this isn't right. Don't go move in with him. Maybe she was afraid of what I would have thought, but she was an adult and she made this decision. She thought she was in love. She thought he loved her, but evidently he didn't.
All things become more clear in hindsight, but you did nothing wrong. You were there for your sister. I know how much you loved her. Nico, you take on these cases because you care about these families and you care about resolution and piecing together the puzzle. What does it mean to you to have a relationship with a family like Robin's and help in the process of trying to find some answers?
All of us at We Are the Essentials, be it the private investigators, the retired military like myself, or retired law enforcement officers that we have on our team. It not only gives us a sense of purpose, but we also have an opportunity to give back to the community. And when you sit down and speak to these families who have never had a situation like this happen to them, it's difficult. It's extremely difficult for them, but I can tell you that for us, it gets just as difficult, especially when when there's a level of criminality involved, because of the difficulty of not being law enforcement and having certain things at our disposal. More or less, it's us getting out, talking, having deep conversations with the family, but also getting out in the community. And a lot of these people that go missing are in communities where they're not the best communities. Let's just say that. And so they're scared to speak to us. They are, they're concerned about their safety, their children's safety. So we get that. Now, I will tell you the good news on this case is that after Russell's arrest, some people have come forward with information. So we are praying, every day that this information that's being provided to the Auburndale police detectives will continue to put these pieces of the puzzle together. And, we're also asking Russell, if he sees this, find it in his heart. Look at Robin, look at Donna, look at Aunt Lisa, look at Laura, look at Jenny. This is a close-knit family, and Tanya didn't deserve this. So find it in your heart, Russell, because we know you're going to be told about this. Find it in your heart just to give this family some peace. Please.
Robin, tell us about your sister Tanya, what you miss most about her, what you want to share with folks at home who are watching.
Her smile, her laughter, her jokes. She never asked for jewelry, materialistic things like that. She asked for jacks for a car, a skill saw to work out, in the yard, drills. She liked to stay busy. She would help anyone, on the side of the road. She'd help, fix a tire. She didn't know strangers. She wanted to be loved. She loved everyone.
Well, I know you love.
Very hard.
I know you love her deeply, Robin. My heart breaks for you and your family that you're going through this. And Nico, thank you for filling a void where law enforcement is often strapped for resources. We will stay in touch, and I hope this does reach Russell and anyone else who has information that can help bring you, Robin, and your family some answers and some closure. I'm so sorry for what you're going through, and thank you once again for being with us.
Thank you.
If you have any information that can help police in this ongoing investigation into the disappearance of Tanya Whipp, you can contact the Auburndale Police Department or Crime Stoppers. Our missing team is traveling to CrimeCon this year. The annual event will be held in Nashville this weekend. It's a weekend-long convention dedicated to all things true crime and mystery, from the latest cases to scientific techniques in crime investigations. It is important for our missing team to be there to talk with law enforcement as well as victim advocates. We'll also spend some time meeting with family and friends who have been impacted by a crime or who have a missing person. Part of our focus this year will be discussing online predators, prevention and advocacy for victims, and how the threat of human and sex trafficking has evolved as technology develops. Joining me now is someone very familiar in this space who knows the risks and works directly with victims to prevent and bring an end to sex trafficking. Michaela Cimarral is with Shared Hope International. Michaela, thanks so much for being with us to talk about this important topic. Tell me about your team's mission.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Marni. So Shared Hope International was founded in 1998 by former U.S. Congresswoman Linda Smith, and we are combating domestic minor sex trafficking through a three-pronged approach, through prevention, restoration, and then also bringing justice through our policy team that is in the Washington, D.C. area.
I know that the threat and the risk has changed as technology has developed. Talk about where that threat is now, given that so many of our teens and young people are online.
Absolutely. Exploitation has significantly increased because of connected devices. So many times I talk to parents who they don't truly understand that their child can be exploited or sex trafficked through their phone or through their gaming device. But we have seen a huge increase in kids being recruited and groomed, enticed online just through apps that are as common as Instagram or Snapchat, through gaming such as Fortnite, Roblox, and then also on gaming consoles. So it is extremely common, and we have to be aware of what's going on.
Right, we used to, Michaela, think of the white van driving through the neighborhood with tinted windows or windows that had been painted over. You didn't know who was inside, and our fear was our child would get snagged off the street or off of the playground. But that looks much differently because of our kids' access to the internet.
Yes, I have spoken to many parents and I tell them what I do for work, and the response has been pretty shocking that some parents still to this day say, oh, well, I tell my children to stay away from white vans, so we're good. And for me, of course, I always say it's good to have conversations with your children about in-person abductions, in-person, interactions with strangers, but are you having just as many conversations with your children about white vans driving by online? These predators are now in your children's bedrooms with them because they have unlimited access through device, through their laptops. And this is just something that we have to understand as adults, because we were taught about stranger danger on the street. We need to talk to our kids, because this is where they're living and building their communities. We need to talk to them about stranger danger online.
So I'm curious what that looks like, the profile of a predator online. You mentioned some of the apps, Fortnite and Roblox. Those are apps and games that my kids have been on. How are these groups, these predators, targeting our kids? What does that look like, and what should we as parents be looking for?
So what I always say, and yes, we can name lots of apps that could be dangerous, but what I always say is if there is an app or any sort of game or social feature where they can chat with anyone, that's what we need to look for. We need to look out for kids that are chatting with someone freely. There have been cases where there are 12-year-old girls chatting with someone on an app until 2 or 3 in the morning. And what happens is these predators, they develop a relationship. They develop trust over time. They become a friend. Then they become a romantic partner. And it seems safe to the children because they've been playing games with them. They know them. And then it turns very quickly into an exploitative relationship.
Take us through that next step, how it happens. Are they lured then out of their room, out from behind the computer screen and out into a place where they're even more vulnerable? What does that next step in this dangerous reality look like?
Yes, that could happen to where they are lured to meet in person in real life. But I also like to remind people that at its core, when we talk about sex trafficking and sexual exploitation, that a child never has to leave their house or their bedroom for it to be trafficking. As long as there is an exchange of goods. Now we have Cash App, we have Venmo. Kids can be bought things with digital money on Fortnite and Roblox, right? But then there also are digital gifts. So even in exchange of what we call child sexual abuse material, or CSAM, that is considered sex trafficking of a child. So a child could be on these apps sending nudes. They could be sending video content because they're either being manipulated to. The predator has also been sending things, images back and forth. And that can be another way, another version of sexual exploitation without ever leaving their home.
And there has to be a demand for this, Michaela, for it to continue. There is a hunger for this awful material and for the cycle, the vicious cycle, to continue to circle around. Talk about the demand. Who's buying this material, and how is that being prevented and stopped?
So the buyers is what we need to understand that more. There is a high demand. The sex industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And with humans, with children, especially, they're vulnerable and they can be sold over and over and over. Images can be circulated to many different places, including pedophile-specific websites, porn websites. And as you know, as we say, and as I said earlier, It's called child sexual abuse material because that's what it is. It is not child pornography. So we need to get that straight. And that demand for this is growing because it is becoming more accessible online, but also because there are many porn addictions in our country, and also sex addictions, and then also childhood abuse that could lead to someone wanting to seek out this type of material.
What are some of the signs, Michaela, that someone is being targeted? What specifically should we be looking for on our kids' devices and as we talk to them?
So some indicators, and it can literally just be one of these, or it can be multiple signs. Secretive relationships and being secretive with their phone or devices, not wanting to talk about what they're doing, maybe hiding apps, staying up late. Like I said, we have come across many cases where kids wake up just very groggy, very tired because they were chatting on their phone until 2 or 3 in the morning. Sometimes they're very withdrawn from their friends. Maybe grades start to slip. They start not showing up to school or skipping school. So those are just a few of the signs. And then there are also more extreme signs. Maybe once they are being exploited or being trafficked, they might have unexplained money, unexplained expensive gifts. For girls or anyone who identifies as a girl, they might have fresh hair, nails, new purses that are unexplained for maybe a 13-year-old that can't have a job. So those are just a few of the signs that we tell people to look out for.
How hard is it, Michaela, to catch those involved in trafficking, catch these predators?
Unfortunately, it's too hard. It's a very complex crime. There are thousands of child sex trafficking cases prosecuted every single year, but I saw many of those cases when I worked directly in the field with survivors. I saw many of those cases slip through the cracks, unfortunately. A lot of the girls that I worked with that were in jail, they were serving time for maybe drug possession that their trafficker planted on them, but then their trafficker got to walk free. Because a lot of times there is that trauma bond, that relationship or that false sense of love and security is built between the victim and the trafficker. And so they will take the hit, they will take the fall for that person. And I had many girls that I worked with who are minors, and they would say my boyfriend was 37, 45, and yet judges wouldn't bat an eye at that. And that's something that we need to change as well within our criminal justice system, is recognizing those signs.
Thank you for the work that you're doing, Michaela. It means the world for you to be here, to open our eyes to the dangerous reality that is out there. Shared Hope International, appreciate you and appreciate your entire team for advocating for the victims. There is a life after you're a victim of one of these crimes, and you guys are there to bridge that gap. So thank you. And if you'd like more information about Shared Hope International and all of the important work they're doing, you can go to sharedhope.org. They also have a number of resources to help victims learn about internet safety and take action in your community. So I encourage you to check that out. All right, Lori Page is 12 years old. She is from the Tallahassee area, and it's another case that right now is on our radar. She was last seen near San Luis Mission Park in June of 2023. There is a $15,000 reward that is being offered in her case. We've got the number on your screen. Submit tips. Call 1-800-FBI, 1-800-CALL-FBI. And also another case we're following, this is Troy Robert Galloway. He has been missing since January of 2016. He's a U.S. Marine, Corps veteran, son, father, husband. Troy has several tattoos, including a devil pulling an angel on his back, as well as a red and black cross on his right shoulder. Anyone with information can contact the Tulum County Sheriff's Office near California's Yosemite National Park if you have any information that can help in this case. And make sure you tune in next week. We're going to be taking a closer look at the disappearance of Jacob Olivier, a new development in this case. Jacob's truck was found in the Florida Everglades National Park in the summer of 2011. Our team has now discovered Jacob's disappearance follows that of another man with strong family ties who went missing on a camping trip just months earlier. Both cases getting very little media attention until now. So join us next week as we dig into the disappearance of Jacob, talking to his family and friends around the timeline that he vanished. And if you have a missing case that you think we should be looking into, you can send it to us at newsnationnow.com/missing. Many of the cases we cover come from you. Thanks as always for watching. I'm Marni Hughes in Chicago. I will see you back here next week for another missing case.